me a variety of different like grapes that I was like, what the heck? He kept handing me grapes that I was like, this is like candy. Like God made candy and called it a grape. It's just amazing. And those things just, at least largely on our culture that probably is more comfortable talking about solar panels and computer software, we don't know that so much. And it's also a really big challenge to do that in Lodi.
Yes.
Where there's a bunch of people out there that are like legit grape farmers.
Totally going to judge us for anything,
Yeah, and so when I came out of the first service, I ran into one of them and I said, did I get anything wrong? And they were like, no, you're pretty good. So just the fascinating nature of that and the idea of Jesus using this really common analogy in their day and age really helped, I think, bring it to life for those disciples at that particular moment. So you ask what's most impactful, I think, you end up at abide. Mm-hmm. That's where you gotta end up. This idea of being with Jesus, being with Jesus, to borrow our analogy, being with Jesus makes us more like Jesus and allows us to do the things that Jesus do rather than the other way around. And so the order of those things actually does matter, is that we're with Jesus first because it allows us to be more like Jesus, and then it allows us to do the things that Jesus did. I think that was maybe most impactful for me.
Yeah, man, that's good, and that's really helpful. I think too, when you were talking about, you kind of really unpacked it really nicely and all the way down, but you got to the part of the pain of pruning.
Oh, yeah.
And man, you got to prune to get some fruit, is what you said. And you said on Sunday the pain of pruning comes now and the fruit comes later. Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah. Have you ever, the things that we ended up starting to do in our Christian life as we journeyed on towards our Christian life? I remember as a young Christian, even in the ministry at the early days, I remember tithing was such a struggle for me. It was like this crazy thing that I was like, I can't afford to, I don't want to, whatever. And it's really a pruning process to say, God, I trust you with this. I trust you with my money. And, it's funny because you get to this stage in my life now where I write very significant checks every month based on me and my wife's income. And I don't even think about it for a second. I don't. And it's because I've watched God provide for us, like even in ways that I would say there's other people around me that I'm like, why are we financially stable? We have never made that much, teacher and a pastor, we've just never made, but we've always been faithful with that. And so the fruit has been, God has said, watch as I provide, watch as I give you what you need. And even realize you don't need a new car, a brand new car, Steve. You can drive that older car, get you from A to B just fine. And I even genuinely believe there's been times where something on my car, I'm thinking, oh, it's making this terrible sound. Just a couple weeks ago, I took the car to the shop and it was making this terrible sound. I thought, oh no, it's going to cost. I took it to the shop and at the shop they said, oh yeah, I think we've forgotten to tighten that up the last time we were here. And it was like, $0? Is that what you're saying to me? And I just watch God provide in those ways over and over again. So.
So blessed are the poor in spirit and the poor in wallet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, God will take care of you.
Amen.
You've been pruned a little bit.
Yeah, the idea of pruning and the pain of pruning, because like you said on Sunday, and it's true in agriculture that you have to allow sun to hit that fruit, and you have to pull the vine and prune certain things away to allow that sunlight to hit those grapes or whatever it is. And it's just this beautiful picture of what like God just takes these things out of our lives and really that we may love and think are good for us. And he's like, no, I need to make room for something else for you.
Yeah.
And it's impactful, man.
We hold on to so many things in our lives and at different stages in our life. I would say it's different things, you're behind me. Olivia's in those fun kid years where you're watching her grow and do all these things, and she's sort of the center of your world, rightly so. She is. But then my kids are growing up and they're gone a little bit, and you have to like let go of them and hand them over to God in a different way at my stage in age. And it's like, okay, God, you got them now because I can't. I don't have the kind of influence I used to have. I don't have the kind of control that I used to have. They're yours. I'm going to surrender them to you, God. You can only do it. And in some ways, that's pruning me of my, not my identity. I mean, I'm still their dad, but it's pruning me of these things that I thought I could control and hold on to, and I can't. And it's like, God, I got to trust you with this.
It's too soon for that.
Yeah, it is. I
It's
know.
too soon,
I know.
Because we were just talking, my wife and I were just talking the other day, and it's like, man, this was summer number 7. We only have 6 left.
It's crazy.
For sure. And, God willing, she sticks around and likes us. We don't know what's going to happen,
right.
but it's like, it's real.
Yeah.
And it hurts now
Yeah.
already. And so, yeah, man. So let's talk about this. You talked about the pruning process. You talked about like the whole abiding piece and coming in. And I want to bring light to something. Can we talk about the hydrant?
Yeah, you can.
Can we talk about the
I don't
hydrant?
know. Somebody gave this to me. It's a stress toy now that it has special meaning for me because the stress was real that day.
It was real.
was
So for those that don't know, Steve he hit a fire hydrant at church property.
You know, I refuse to park in that parking space ever again. You will never catch my truck.
Park there all the time
yeah,
now.
Yeah, you take it.
It's
yours.
I got you. But we were doing something fast. It was you and I. We were setting up a baptismal. We were going. I'm like, hey, just pull around real quick.
Yep.
We'll do this. All of a sudden, Old Faithful goes off, and I was like, what is happening? But I want to tell you. I mean, you use this as an illustration on Sunday, but I came up to you. I was like, man, I don't know how you're so cool and calm and collected because I'd be losing my marbles right now. And you're just so cool.
Thought about losing them.
I'm sure you did, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But it was just, to me, it was like, it was beautiful to see somebody actually walk out, like to practice what they preach and they say. So
I think the longer that you abide, the longer that you kind of practice these Jesus ways, to be honest with you, the more you realize some of the things that I thought mattered don't matter. Some of the things that used to upset me don't upset me anymore. It's sort of what I was saying on Sunday. It's like you become a better version of yourself. And even in that moment, and like I said on Sunday, when you said it to me, I was like, hey, yeah, I did sort of handle that okay.
I did do that.
That is unusual for me. I normally would be ranting and raving right now. And as a result, I thought to myself, well, why was that as I was preparing? And I thought, you know what? I really think it's some of the disciplines I have, little perspective, what are you going to do? I might as well lean into it because it doesn't change anything important in my life. The fact that I did that, yes, I'm going to have to work with an insurance company and call the fire department and all those things, but it's like, You know, God's still good and he's still on the throne. And my heart's a little calmer these days because I embrace that a little more.
What are some of those things that you do in your
I'm going to turn this around on you too because there's so many of these practices that I think we have, and I don't want to make it this legalistic version of practices. Like if you don't do these, then you can't possibly have peace or you can't possibly abide in Christ, because there are some people who I think genuinely walk around with Jesus all day long in their heart and in their like in their conscience. And some of us, we wander in and out of Jesus's presence, like we just don't think about it. But I talked about I get up first thing in the morning and I walk with God, and I was sharing at staff meeting this morning that I very intentionally don't listen to anything or do anything for the first probably 30 or 35 minutes of my walk, so that I'm just having a conversation with God. And that conversation can be all over the place. Just like if you and I were having it, you wander into my office, God only knows what we're going to end up talking about.
And that happens often.
Yeah, or wherever that conversation is going to go.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, but that's rooted in a relationship that you and I have. And we don't walk away from each of those conversations judging, well, did I get closer to Ian today? Are we better friends than we were yesterday? Like, you don't do that with regular people. And so I try not to do that with Jesus. There's times where I tell him, I'm all over the place today, God. I'm thinking about 8 different things. I'm stopped talking to you a minute ago. Like, I don't even know, but you're right here. And I don't think that phases God one tiny little bit.
Yeah.
I mentioned that, in fact, this is a great little resource for if you're watching and you're thinking about The Secrets of the Vine is this book. It came out a long time ago. Bruce Wilkinson. The first book he came out with was called Prayer Jabez. It was a huge deal.
Huge.
I didn't love the Prayer Jabez the way I love Secrets of the Vine. Prayer Jabez just had a little, and don't get me wrong, it's all biblical. I'm not mad at him, but this one was really impactful to me. So as I came to John 15, I was looking through it again. And one of the things that Bruce Wilkinson said is, he said, I don't genuinely know anybody that has impacted the world for Christ that doesn't get up and spend time with God in the morning.
Yeah.
And I made this comment in staff that I'm not trying to be legalistic about that. Like, if you are a nighttime reader, God bless you.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, setting your clock, setting your heart, setting your attitude and your priorities at the beginning has been a big deal for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I can't think of any better way to start my day, or to really just wake up and try my best to enter into the presence. And try my best is such a weird statement too, because he's right there. He's always there. And so it's usually me who's like, oh, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. And for me, I'm with you on that. I'm not quite as disciplined on the silence for a while. I go straight to, like, my go-to is the Bible Project
Yeah, I
app.
love that. That's a good app.
They're doing a thing, like video series on the Sermon on the Mount, and they release it each week, and you're supposed to meditate that on that specific set of videos daily for
All
a
week
whole
long?
week long.
Yeah, that's
So it's just really, you get to chew on it for a while. But I'm just like anybody else. I'll watch it, and then I'll not watch it, and then I'll watch it, and then I'll watch half of it.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. But there's so many things out there that it can equip us and help us. Dwell app is one I use. It's just,
Yeah, so let me ask you this, because you're a musician, you're a music guy, and music plays such a big role, I think, even in connecting with Jesus again and again throughout the day, whether it's a playlist or, if you leave your musical fate to the Spotify algorithm, you're going to end up with who knows what, on everything from 80s hits to,
which aren't bad.
Yeah, and there's
Not
nothing
bad.
completely. How do you use music to keep you in God's presence, or even to come back to that at different times in the day?
Man, I mean,
Without it being work.
Well, yeah,
There's some of it is a part of your job, obviously.
But the beauty of that is it never feels like work.
Music is music.
I mean, even when I'm listening to a song on repeat, like we did that song "Come to the Table," and I listened to that song 100 times. It feels like getting ready for it, and it never got old.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful song. And music, I love music that way, especially like Christ, God-honoring music, because music doesn't ask permission to enter in and to change and to make you better. It's something that just does. And I think that's why the way God intended it. Right. That's why music is awesome. That's why you make a joyful noise. You let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Psalm 150. All of those things add into the fact that, yes, when words aren't available for me, man, I go to a playlist. I go to certain songs that I'm just like, I don't know, but this song says it perfectly, Lord, and this is what I feel.
Yeah.
And then it ends up speaking to me in a way, and the same song can like speak to you in a million different ways.
Yeah.
So
it's funny to me, even playlists are an interesting thing to me. I've got various playlists. Some of them are secular and, Phil Collins and old school stuff or whatever. But at the end of the day, there's certain times in my life where I'm like, you know what? I genuinely need my worship playlist right now. And there's other times where I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just driving down the road and I'm going to put on whatever's on. But I think the more we can intentionally re-engage those songs that bring us back into Jesus's presence is another way of abiding, and it's a way that is super accessible for most people. You can put your car radio on K-Love. You can set up that playlist to play, and you can choose times of your day where you're going to engage music. And we talked about media, other stuff that you're consuming, and I sort of made a comment on Sunday about there's a lot of people who are spending a lot of time in front of social media or in front of cable news that is drawing them to places that are not healthy, not good. It's just full of doom and gloom and all the rest. And so how do you redeem some of that time? And I'm not saying you have to, in fact, I'm not saying you have to take anything out of your life. I would hope you would take sin out of your life, sinful practices out of your life, which that's the original cutting of the vine. But honestly, there's a way to intersperse throughout your day, throughout your consumption, something that brings you back to Christ. Yeah,
that's good. That's really good. So what you're saying is like what you said in your sermon is let's talk, do less, spend more time with Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, I'm a doer, and I do a lot. And so when you said that, I was like, oh, get out of here with that. I can't do less. I need to do more. And so let's talk about that. I mean,
it's more and more and more fruit, more fruit, more fruit, more fruit. And for those of us, it's a North American thing. It's an American thing. It's a high achiever type A thing. It's a look at me and I've got my whatever thing working.
Yeah.
But this idea that when you do less, this is sort of out of the Secrets of the Vine, is this idea that when you do less and when you abide more in Jesus, suddenly you start to see Jesus at work in your tasks than you are. Suddenly when you sit around and stress about, I'll give you an example. I need 200 upward coaches, 200. If you're thinking about upward coaching, I need 200 of them. I can stress about that all day long. Or I can talk to Jesus about it. I can hand it to Jesus and go, Jesus, we need 200 coaches. We need them to be solid Christian people who will, lift up your son and give these devotions to these kids and be patient with kids who are tough to be patient with sometimes. And then suddenly you look back and you go, where did all these coaches come from? And it's like, it's not because I hustled harder. It's because I trusted more.
Yeah, that was a really good, redeeming, shameless plug for Upward.
Yeah, it was.
It's beautiful.
It's almost like registration opened yesterday.
Almost like it. It's almost like you could register now to be a coach.
At WD.
But act now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, I still wrestle with that idea of doing less. If I'm honest, I mean, I'm an achiever also, like, and a lot of my job from week in and week out is task oriented. There has to be certain fruit that is produced, or things don't happen. And so, finding ways to do less seems very counterintuitive and almost painful.
It is.
But I'm obviously need to work on that, because that's what stood out to me. Like a shot in the forehead. A little flick to the eye, and I'm like, oh man, okay. Do less, spend more time with Jesus. So that was really.
Think of Elijah by the river, right?
Yes.
And then God's like, would you lay down for a little bit? Let me eat some bread, have a drink, lay down. I'll rejuvenate you. I'll get
some bread that I'm going to bring with a raven. That's pretty cool too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So staying connected. You talked about staying connected through perseverance.
Yeah.
And I would say, I think Christianity is on its way to the margins. It's on its way. Are we persecuted? No way. But are we on our way to being super unpopular? I think we're already there. So how do we stay connected? How do we persevere?
I think persevering is a little bit. Definitely there's that aspect to it. But any time that a relationship is tested for some reason, it's like you have to decide: am I going to stay connected to this person or not? If you or I were to move to hypothetically a place like Kansas or something like that, and
no,
don't do it.
Back.
Don't do it. Okay,
just kidding.
But if you did, you and I would have a choice to make of whether we're going to stay connected or not. What that would look like. Are we going to text? Are we going to call? Are we just going to wait till heaven when we can play golf together again or something like that? But when you're in relationship, you've got to choose to persevere through. And the example I gave on Sunday is, in good times, I think we tend to forget about God. And in bad times, a lot of people walk away from God. And I'm sure there's people who were sitting out there on Sunday who are maybe watching this at some point, who remember a really hard time in their life where they walked away from God. And they just thought, it's not working for me. God becomes this transactional God where it's like, well, he didn't deliver for me. And it's like, there's good times and there's bad times. Are you going to persevere in this relationship to let him walk you through the hard times to get you to the good times again? And frankly, when you get to the good times, are you still going to persevere in your presence with him over and over again, rather than just go, well, everything's okay now, I don't need you, God. And so there's this perseverance factor that's true for any relationship. It's true for spouses. It's true for, I got a kid that's in Santa Barbara at college. If I don't pick up the phone, if I don't send a text, if she doesn't pick up the phone or send a text, we grow apart. But when you persevere, then the relationship stays real and connected.
Well, that was absolutely practical. Thank you.
Yeah, well.
I was going ethereal, and you were like, "No, let's bring it back down," which I think I appreciate, because sometimes I'll go out there in the ether and never come back down. And so it's true, because you staying connected, persevering through relationship issues, through those things. I mean, even in, like, Jesus is like, "Hey, you're going to suffer because of me." But take heart, I'm good. I'm good enough. I'll take it. I'll take it all for you. But you're also going to have to make those same choices with other relationships too. And so it's such a good point. If you don't pursue, it's hard to persevere.
Absolutely. And relationships float in and out of our lives sometimes. And there's some people, you ever had that person in your life that was maybe a childhood friend, or even it could be a sibling or something like that, where you haven't talked in months, but then the phone rings and immediately you're like, oh yeah, I'm glad that they're, and there's no weirdness. There's no, like, it's just like, hey, we are still connected and all of that. Well, there's a layer of that intense connection that allows for that to pick up where it left off. And that's what we're looking for with Jesus. We're looking for that kind of connection, that it's like, I don't have to earn your favor, God. I don't have to, but but I want to stay connected with you, and we are connected.
Man, I love that. I've never really thought of it that way because, I mean, my oldest brother lives in right now in South Korea,
Yeah.
in Seoul, and we don't talk much. We talk a little bit here and there, but when I see him, it's just like no time has passed by. I've got a great friend in college, same way. Like we'll pick back up, and it's like zero time. I've known this guy since I was 3 years old, and it's like I've never thought of my relationship with Christ that way, where it's just like He's always going to be the same for me.
Yeah.
He's steadfast, and just to not have to either dress myself up or put on a different face. I can just come to him as is, which is beautiful. And I think that all of us can take that and run with it today, which is really cool. So the big so what? What's the big takeaway from John 15, the secret of the vine, the way of the vine?
I know. For me, it's this idea of abiding. I don't know about you. The beginning part of that passage in John 15 talks about branches being cut off. And then later on, it's a little bit like branches being cut off and thrown into the fire. Yeah. And it's almost like got this hellfire and brimstone like quality to it. Yeah. And so when Bruce Wilkinson talked about that Greek word arrow and how it, and he related to the vine that had grown down and become dusty and had, basically he related it to sin in your life. And it's like, God wants to cut the sin out of your life like completely. But then he wants to retrain you back up to the vine. He's not cutting you off. He's cutting off the sin in your life. And I thought, and he said, I've never read John 15 the same again. And there's a layer for me that I'm the same way. Like, I don't probably need to tell anybody. We've all had moments where sin had us right where it wanted us. It had us in its grip, and it's like, and it's habitual, and it's something that maybe even you're like, I don't even want to give this up right now, God. Yeah. I've had people walk into my office and say, it's just a little bit of porn. It's not hurting anybody. And my answer is, it is hurting somebody. Yeah. I guarantee it's hurting somebody. Yeah. And so it's the illustration. Have you ever heard the illustration of the brownie where I'm just going to put a little bit of poop in the brownie, and then I'm going to bake it for you, and we'll see if you care about that or not? And it's like, it actually matters, doesn't it? I don't want to eat your brownie. But at the end of the day, it's like you've got to cut out that sin if it's got you, and then you got to be pruned in such a way that you're like, I'm okay with giving up other things for you, God. But all of that roots back to this abiding and going back to Jesus again, starting your day with Jesus, finishing your day with Jesus, finding Jesus throughout the day was sort of the so what process. I mean, how can you return to Jesus again and again all day long? So that when you get up the next day, it's like no time has passed. I was with you yesterday, you're with me today. So, and that practically is, everything from music to the Bible Project app, to whatever devotion app you want to use, to Bible reading, to watching I was joking about The Chosen, which I really love The Chosen. It's sort of like really make those scenes come to life for me. Yeah. But how do you choose to do that every day so that you're abiding, so that you just don't feel like Jesus isn't with you? He's always with you. Yeah, position yourself in a place where Jesus is always with you. Yeah. That's a great place to end it. Let's go. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you, man. Yeah, thank you for this time. Thanks for having me here. Yeah. It's been good. Yeah, appreciate you. Appreciate all that you do. And you and I didn't know each other from Adam just a few years ago. Yeah. We've become in our relationship. We've become we rely on each other. We absolutely connect. Yeah. And I just see that so often again in my relationship with Jesus, and I think people long for this. And so find it, because we can point each other back to Jesus. Amen. There's been moments where we've walked into each other's office and I'm struggling, and it's like, hey, when has God not shown up in these areas? Oh, you've talked me off the ledge many a times, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I think that too is like, the way of the vine is community. Yeah, absolutly. There's a lot of vines hanging out on. There's a lot of branches hanging out on the vine together. Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. So awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for being part of my community. All right, brother. And letting me into yours. I love you, man. All right, love you too.